Hi, Teresa. Can you hear me okay? Nice to have
Yes, say hi.
you. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Hi, Deb. This stream is live now, and can you make me co-host? And you can start recording now.
Okay, thank you, Max.
Welcome. Hello, everyone.
There you go. There's Martha back again. Hi, Martha. Did you get those dessert recipes? You did. You're muted. You're muted, so I'm trying to read your lips, but I'm not really very good at it.
They were kind of spread out rather than a concise page.
Oh.
So I'm going to go through and copy what I need on index cards.
What do you mean they were spread out? I'm not sure.
Well, like the recipes from yesterday, that was just like, these are the ingredients and this is what you do. And this one seemed to be more of a story. The first one anyway.
Oh, the links. Well, if you, yeah, it goes to a website?
I think so.
So if you look at the top, it might say jump to recipe.
Okay.
If you do that, it usually lets you print the recipe in the form that you're used to.
Okay, okay.
So I think you should be able to find that way, I think.
I'm getting spoiled by these classes.
Do you recall which one that was? Which recipe that was?
It was the chocolate avocado one in particular. Yeah,
you should be able to see a jump too, because I believe that I printed that one out myself.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that.
Okay.
You know, I kind of have to. I'm the last one that ever would even consider watching a cooking show, ever.
Well, I will be flattered by that. I'm glad that you came. What made you decide to do that?
These classes are so friendly and interactive and nonsensical, or not making sense, and the ingredients aren't from a worm's head or something. You know, it's just like healthy, basic, not from weird specialty stores.
Okay, good to know. But having said that now, I'm going to be a little bit embarrassed because the recipe I'm doing this morning isn't really all that healthy, but it's Mother's Day. So we make exceptions, right? Sometimes.
That's why I'm here, for exceptions too.
Okay, all right. Hi, Alberta. Got the sopapilla recipe. I need to talk with you about that. I really want to include those in our Mexican classes. Hi, Barbara.
Just call it more Mexican.
Exactly, we will. We'll work that out.
Hi there.
So, anybody new with me today or new to get set up?
I am. Well, I'm not new to get set up, but I'm new to you.
Okay, well, I'm really glad you're here. Thank you for coming today. And if you heard Martha talk, I think we're a friendly bunch here. So we really enjoy interacting and getting each other's ideas. We learn well from each other. And I hope that you feel comfortable in keeping yourself unmuted and talking whenever you would like.
And my name is Carolyn. I'm new to your class, Deb. Maybe not. Maybe I've had one of the others, but it's been a minute. But I love your kitchen. You look like you're doing an awful lot of stuff today.
Oh my goodness, this is my second and I'll have a third this evening. So we're doing soups. So it's challenging and it's kind of new coming from my kitchen here. So I'm learning, as we all are, and that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Who else is new? Anyone? Okay. Well, welcome to all of you new and existing or previous learners that joined me before. I'm going to share my screen so we can properly get started. And now you should be seeing my slides, and I should be seeing you, but I am not. Let me see. There you are. Sometimes screens disappear. Okay, so can you see my Mother's Day slide?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. We're going to talk about an easy make-ahead brunch menu today. think it's easy. For those of you who have not joined me before, my name is Deb Livingston. I'm your guide, and I am from the Eastern Coast. So I'm in York, Pennsylvania, where it is a very hot and muggy July day, it feels like. My background is in training and development. So my career has been corporate for many years. And now I really enjoy talking about food and cooking and nutrition and using my skills in that way. It's a lot of fun for me, and I learn a lot from all of you. And as I was mentioning earlier, it's really nice when we can be on camera, see each other. Hey there, Hiroko. It's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. It's good when we're on camera. I think there's a lot of energy that comes with that. And you can feel comfortable to unmute yourself at any time to make some comments or to ask questions. I don't mind that one bit. And you, all that I would ask is that you mute yourself after you're finished speaking, just to keep background noise out of the mix. And Max up there, I wanted to introduce to you. Max, do you want to just say hi again now that everyone's here? Pretty much everyone's here.
Hi everyone. Hello everyone. Good to see you here.
And Max is going to be watching the chat and letting me know if there's anything in there I should see. It's one less thing for me to look at while I'm managing the oven and the camera and everything else. So welcome to everybody who's out there, maybe joining by live stream. It's really nice to have you also. And we would invite you, I'm sure this group would invite you also to join and register for a class and be part of the conversation. It would be great. Lastly, just part of our introduction here, there's no financial relationship with anybody or anything that we look at here in any of these classes. So there's not much of that today that I'll be talking about, but we do look at websites, so no relationship there. And we are going to talk about moms, motherhood, and Mother's Day just a little bit. I know you're here for the recipes, but I think it's important. I want to honor all of you who are mothers and just acknowledge your lifetime as a mother. And we'll talk about the brunch with recipes. And I do have a little tribute at the end, and maybe we can get to that. So I'm kind of curious, what exactly did bring you today? Are you going to have a celebration for yourself on Mother's Day? Are you going to be cooking for yourself or someone else? What's happening? What made you come today?
Well, I know I'm going to have a brunch for my family. And it also includes my son's birthday. So it's sort of a dual thing.
Wow, so there's a lot going on there. And is everybody able to come to your house at this point?
Yeah, it's great.
Fantastic, that's nice. It's nice to hear that we're starting to gather again. So good. Who else?
Well, this is Carolyn, and I just want to get some, some ideas. I'll be traveling to go and visit with my daughters. My sons won't get to join us. So I just like to see different ideas of things that maybe even after Mother's Day, I can prepare myself, because I probably won't have to do much at all during Mother's Day week. But
that's the way to do it, right? That's the way it should be.
Absolutely, but just to get some ideas for future.
Yeah, and all of these, as I said in the title, they're all make ahead, so they work out well for any kind of gathering, or if you're getting company and you don't want to have to be cooking while they're there. As a matter of fact, my brother and sister-in-law are coming tomorrow, and they'll be here till Saturday. And so this recipe I'm making today is going to be a perfect breakfast, actually, for Thursday morning. So I will show you that. And I'm going to just tilt my camera a little bit because I feel like my head's, well, maybe the other way. I want my head to be cut off there. Anyone else want to share what you're doing for Mother's Day?
We're getting together. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
We're getting together, my family, at my son's beach house, but we're ordering in. But in the beginning of June, I'm going there for a week, and different female relatives are coming. My husband's 96-year-old aunt and a few people, but I'm always the cook. And I thought these would be kind of girly kind of recipes for us then.
Okay, good. That sounds really nice.
So I've typically been the holiday cook for my family for many, many years. And since COVID, my daughter, who has a granddaughter, has taken over the family get-togethers with COVID and everybody being free to see each other finally again. And I don't know that I want her to spend her day trying to make everything for everybody in her little tiny kitchen. So maybe this can be my gift to her.
Oh, nice. So you can make some things and complement whatever she might be planning.
Yeah.
Yeah, great idea. Nice. Just like a mother thinking about her daughter. So how many of you are mothers? Raise your hand. Yeah, Hiroko, I know you are for sure. Yeah. Well, Valentine, yeah.
Yes, I'm a mother.
Okay, Carolyn. Okay. So I'm a stepmom, but I got a stepdaughter when I was 39, I got married. So I got a stepdaughter who was actually only 11 years younger than me. So it's a little bit different, but I do have granddaughters now, and it's wonderful. Although they're very far away, they're over in Nevada, so it's tough to see them, and especially with the pandemic. But Mother's Day is a special time, and it is a celebration. You know, I felt like just waxing personal a little bit, like I was really missing out on Mother's Day and all things, you know, felt very excluded for many years in the whole Mother's Day thing. I spent a lot of time with my mother, of course, but always felt like I, wasn't really a mom. But then somebody along the way said, Mother's Day is really not just about being a biological mother, but about being a mothering person. And who do you take care of who may not be related to you? And I feel like that really helped me to feel part of things. And certainly I would never, oh my goodness, I give so much credit to the mothers out there who have done what you've done. I know what my mother went through raising me. So I can feel that and really respect you all for what you've done over your years as a mother. So this is a celebration for us all. And it's a wonderful day. Does anybody have their mother still with them? Is your mother still alive? Barbara, is that a yes or is that a previous hand raise? No, everybody's mother has passed away. Yeah.
No, my mother died when she was 104.
Oh my goodness. 104. She had a lovely long life.
Yeah.
Was she healthy through most of that time?
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, that's the best we can ask for. You were fortunate to have her so long. Lovely. So we'll be thinking about our moms this year. And I thought about that from a kitchen perspective, from a cooking perspective. Do you have a recipe of your mother's that you really treasure? Do you have a recipe that your children treasure, that you would like to make a more permanent memory? And if you think about that, you might think about this. You can select this favorite recipe and a picture of yourself or of your mother, and you can have it put on a plate, which is really lovely. So Etsy, you can Google this. I didn't pick a particular one, but you can Google recipe plates and you can find this. Actually, what I'll try to remember to do after this is go into Etsy and send you a link for this one so that you have something if you're interested in it. But I just think it's such a lovely way to commemorate yourself, your mother. It's a nice gift for children. I know I treasure those kinds of things. Okay, so we're all about not making you spend a day in the kitchen on your special day. So we're going to start with this recipe for a make-ahead French toast. So the the menu that I have for you today is a little bit of everything, sweet and savory. And I hope there's options here that will fill the bill. Now, you don't have to write all these down because you're going to get each one of these recipes. But this is a cinnamon toast recipe, and I'm actually giving you 2 of these. So one of these recipes is a little crunchier, a little bit drier than the other. That same recipe can be made, so that recipe is made with a bread that is oh my goodness, I'm blanking out on the name of the bread. Let me take a quick look at the recipe here. Because I experimented, this is what it looked like. And I experimented with using a couple of different kinds of bread. So this calls for ciabatta. You know, that's a little heavier, a little harder. And so I used that thinly sliced, and the result was that this recipe got really crunchy. It was very tasty. I drizzled some maple syrup on it, but then I made a second batch of it and I used a softer bread. So that was also delicious, but it was different. It was softer. It was more, it was just more custardy in that way. So this recipe uses ricotta cheese in it, which is different from a lot of the make-ahead casseroles. And I kind of like that. It felt a little bit on the healthier side. So this one has 5 large eggs in it and just a half of a cup of half and half. If I were going to make this one again, I would maybe think about adding a little more milk to it because my bread didn't get all wet when I used the ciabatta. So I'm going to send you this recipe. You can experiment with it. It was good the way it was, but you can play it by ear. I know that you also have made recipes where you wandered off the exact recipe a little bit. And this one was very good, really pretty healthy. And I have another one for you that I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now and actually prepare for you. And this, you'll also get this recipe. So I made a little minor modification to this one too. And that was to use more bread than what it called for. So I'm going to experiment here with you in my kitchen and let you know how it goes. And if the modification is better than the original, then you will know. And I will send those modifications along. This is because it's when you're looking for recipes, sometimes until you test them, you don't know if they're good. And so I like to try to test these beforehand, and sometimes I have to do it in the kitchen. So this calls for a loaf of this calls for half of a loaf of French bread, or basically 8 ounces cut into cubes, which is what I did here. But it also calls for this to be made in a 9 by 13 inch casserole. And when I put 8 ounces of bread in this casserole, it didn't really fill the casserole. So I decided I would use the rest of the loaf, which was about 12 ounces. And what I'm going to do is increase the milk a little bit and increase it by 1 egg. So we'll see how that works out. So here's what happens with this recipe. First thing I'm going to do is heat a half a cup of butter on the stove. Goodness, I don't have all my great lighting on here yet today. So we're going to let that heat up, and then into that I'm going to put a cup of brown sugar. So here's the part, this is more sugar than I usually use. But I'm going to put a cup of brown sugar in with that butter. Can you taste that already? Brown sugar and butter, what could be better, right? And I'm going to melt all of that together. And what's going to happen is that will be spread on the bottom of my casserole. So it's got a nice crunchy, caramelly kind of brown butter flavor on the bottom. So I'm going to keep an eye on my butter here. I want to make sure I don't burn it. It's not supposed to be brown butter. And then the recipe calls for 6 eggs. But because I used that extra bread, I'm making it 7 eggs. And I'm going to crack those into this bowl. And we're going to mix that together with the milk. I have a question. How do you, when you butter your pans like that, your casserole dishes, how do you do it? What do you use to butter it? Something fancy, a piece of paper towel, a piece of wax paper? What do you do?
I use saran wrap and I do a spray in there, and then I can spread it all around and everything reaches into corners. And I wanted to say something about eggshells too. When a piece of an eggshell gets dropped into the egg, then I can pick it up. The eggshell attracts a little piece. It's like a magnet.
So you go in here and just do the side along the side and you catch it. Yeah, good trick. I love it. Yep. And I was just thinking as I was doing this, probably, well, if you really want to be safe about it, you can be cracking these eggs one at a time into a bowl and adding them together, right? So I could have been doing that, because if there's anything wrong with your egg, you'll maybe mess up the rest of the eggs, but I feel pretty safe with these eggs. But yes, getting the shell out is another thing, but that trick makes it so much easier. So we're going to whisk the eggs. Again, it's 7 eggs I'm putting in here instead of the 6 that the recipe calls for. And then this is 2 cups of milk. It calls for 2 cups of milk, but I'm going to increase that as well. So I want to get some more milk out. And add a half cup. Yep, that should be good. Now what I can do here, if I pour this custard over and it's too much, the good thing is I can just I don't have to put it all in. So then I can use it and make a custard with something else in another recipe. So this calls for some vanilla. We've got 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. And I might put just a tiny bit more in there just to compensate, because I put that extra milk in there and extra egg. I like vanilla. Anybody else do that? Just kind of add what you like. Okay, so vanilla and a teaspoon of cinnamon. We're going to do the same thing with that. A little bit more than a teaspoon. I'm going to use my half teaspoon because I made my other one wet with the vanilla. So 2 of those, a little bit rounded, should be nice. If you like something like a little nutmeg in something like this, you could add it. I think these kinds of make-ahead casseroles are nice because you can add things that you like. If you want to put nuts in this, I thought about that, pecans, toasted pecans would be nice. Check my butter. Almost done. Have you ever made one of these make-ahead French toast casseroles? No? Anybody? You have to raise your hand or unmute yourself. I'm having trouble seeing.
My daughter has made them when we get together, and it works out great. It's a great idea.
You like them? Yeah, and you can do this with savory casseroles too, and it really works out well. You do them in advance, and then you don't have to worry about anything. You just pop them in the oven. What I'm going to do with this one today is bake it so we can see it. That's why I wanted to get it done here before too long. I'm going to make it and bake it, and then I am going to keep it wrapped in the refrigerator and heat it up on the day 2 days from now, just heat it in the oven, it will be fine. The other thing that you can do is bake it, and you can cover it with plastic wrap and then foil, and you can freeze it. So you can make this ahead and take it out the night before, and then heat it for about 30 minutes at 350. Okay, so my butter is about melted, and I'm just going to stir this in until it's dissolved, this sugar. Let that go a minute. Hesitant to go on to the next recipe and share because we'll just about be ready to go here.
Deb, when you freeze it, you don't thaw it first, you just put it in the oven?
You can, I would say, try to get it out and put it in the refrigerator the night before. If you do have a freezer to oven dish that you're comfortable with, you can put it in frozen and then just double the amount of time. Roughly, that's the rule of thumb with that. Look what happened. The vanilla fell on the recipe. Okay.
Yeah, what I do, and I'm taking something directly from the freezer, is to put it in the oven cold before I preheat it. And then the plate starts warming up slowly as the oven preheats, just to make sure that there's no breakage.
Well, that makes a whole lot of sense for sure. Just, yeah, let that come up gradually to temperature. Thanks for adding that. Has anybody ever had a problem with a baking dish shattering in the oven? Anyone?
Not shattering, but cracking.
Cracking. Yeah.
But
was it because you didn't heat it up, or was
yeah, I think the oven temperature was too hot because it was one of those that, well, it was for I think it was called leftover Yorkshire strata. And you wanted to heat the butter to melt in the bowl first and or in the oven. And I didn't use a Pyrex. I was trying to use a pretty pottery dish.
Oh, I bet that broke your heart.
Yes, it did. So go stay with the Pyrex, even though it's not as pretty.
Yeah. Live and learn. I think something similar happened to me when I was trying to do something with a dish that I really wanted for presentation. Same thing. Okay, so it looks a little syrupy. It's melted. I can't really tilt it unless I want to pour it on my keyboard, but it's kind of syrupy. And I'm just going to spread it on the bottom of my pan here. It's oh my gosh, it smells so good. It's very buttery and caramelly. Oh, I think you're gonna like this one. Okay. Okay, so I've spread that out. My dish is buttered. I buttered mine with wax paper, but I like the saran wrap idea too. And now I'm going to put my crumbs in here. Not my crumbs, my cubes. And I'll show you how this fills up. And by the way, with the 8 ounces, this was supposed to serve 8, but I don't know. I'm adjusting, and I think it might make a good adjustment here. So now you can see how much bread is in there. It still looks like it could take more bread, but let's add the eggs and see what happens. So we just pour this over. Now this easily can go in the refrigerator overnight, and the next day all of the egg and so on gets soaked into the bread and it bakes really nicely. You just bake it in the morning. Or you can just bake it now and reheat it. I'm pushing all the bread down in right now. Probably shouldn't be doing it with a whisk. That doesn't work very well. Pushing it down so that it gets saturated. You wouldn't have to do that if you put it in the refrigerator overnight. That would happen automatically. And then the last thing I'm going to do before I put it in the oven is sprinkle it with a little bit of brown sugar, I believe, and a little more cinnamon. So, a tablespoon of brown sugar. Anybody have these? You see what this is? It's a brown sugar bear. It's a little bear, and it's clay, and I can soak it in water, and then once it pulls in all that water, I can put it in my brown sugar to keep it from getting hard. So I'm going to just spread some brown sugar over the top.
I've never seen those. Where do you purchase them?
So you can buy them at a kitchen store. A lot of times they have them in places like that, maybe near the cash register or just in the Notions area. But kitchen stores usually have them.
I just fold up a paper towel and wet it and put it in the closed container until the brown sugar gets soft, and then you can wet the paper towel and use again and your brown sugar.
That's a good way to do it. How long does that stay? I've been trying to keep track of how long it stays moist with the bear.
Yeah.
Do you know how long it stays?
No, I've never checked because I just see if the brown sugar is getting hard, I put it in there, and next time I'm ready to use it, it's fine. So I don't know.
Use it as needed when it starts to get hard. I get it. Yeah.
Somebody in one of the kitchen shows on Get Set Up said a piece of bread
Yes.
lasts forever.
Yeah.
Was that Lee?
Huh?
Did you say that was a Get Set Up program? Was that Lee?
I don't think it was you, but it very well could have been.
No, Lee. Was it a guy, Lee?
Lee, yeah, it was Lee.
Yeah. So now I
They-
think a little
They
more.
also say you can use apple slices, but I think why waste an apple? That's fine.
Well, yeah. And why buy a bear if you can put a paper towel in too? So this is what's going in the oven now, and this will bake for 30 minutes. So we'll see if it's 3:32. We'll be getting really close to the end we'll be at the end of the class, but I'll pull it out and we'll see what it looks like at that time. All right, so now what I'm going to do is get rid of a couple of things here and switch back to my presentation to show you some of these other meals. So do you make quiche right now? Have you made quiche before?
Yes.
Yes, you've made quiche. Anybody feel a little put off by the whole idea of quiche and making it?
No.
No, it's something I really like to make, but not. I don't like to eat the crust all the time because I try to avoid so much. So I make a lot of crustless quiches, and you can use this recipe with or without a crust. So I went looking for a good quiche Lorraine recipe, a good basic recipe, because a lot of recipes out there have different ratios of egg to milk. And sometimes I'll make a recipe and the egg gets really dense and it's not as fluffy as I would like it or as custardy as I would like it. So I went searching for what was an ideal ratio. And that ideal ratio seems to be 1 to 1/2. That means 1 egg to 1/2 cup of milk. So I selected a quiche Lorraine recipe here that uses that formula. And in this recipe, you have a rollout dough, but you can buy the kind at the store that you can roll out, or you can do a press in the pan oil crust, whatever you like. The most important thing in my mind was getting the right toppings and then the right egg ratio. So this called for 4 large eggs and 2 cups of whipping cream, or half and half. So again, it's that 1 to 2. This dough calls for mixing the flour and the salt. How many of you make your own pie dough? Or who would like to know more about pie dough? I guess that's the question. Pie dough is one of those things that we sometimes just use what we buy at the store, or we have a recipe that we like. This is the pretty basic recipe with a cup of flour, teaspoon of salt, and 1/3 of a cup of shortening. So you can use any kind of hardened shortening. You could use coconut oil in this as well. And then 2 to 3 tablespoons of cold water to make that pie dough. So you mix the flour and the salt, you cut in the shortening with a fork until it forms pea-sized balls. And then you start to add this cold water, just sprinkling over a little bit at a time until you can form a ball with the dough. And then you're ready to roll that out on a floured surface with a rolling pin. And for the quiche itself, you're going to want to what's called blind bake the shell, which means that you can poke some holes in the bottom of the shell, and you can cover it with paper, parchment paper or foil in this case, and then weight it down. You can weight it down and pre-bake it if you like. So then when you pre-bake it, after you pre-bake it for about 10 minutes, you can add your ingredients. Now, some people don't pre-bake their shell, so it's up to you. Do you like it a little more well done? If you don't, you can go right to adding your ingredients. You can see here that what we've done in this recipe is cook the bacon first and add the cheese on the bottom and any other filling that you want. So you can put any filling in here and then add your eggs over top of that filling. So that's a basic quiche. And sometime maybe we will share some quiche recipes. I like the idea of a press in the pan pie dough because it's super easy to do. It's healthy. It uses oil, not shortening, so I can get away from any saturated fat in it, and I don't have to roll it out. Just press it in the pan. So that's a good alternative. A quiche can be kept in the refrigerator just like that other recipe, and you can get it out covered with foil and warm it up as well. Thoughts about quiche? Anybody have a favorite quiche recipe?
I do now. How about diced ham instead of bacon?
Absolutely. And you know what I like about this is that you can make any kind of quiche that you want. I very rarely follow a recipe now. I just use the crust that I like, and then I select whatever vegetables I might have in my refrigerator. So regularly I'll cut up asparagus that I steam a little bit, and I wilt a little spinach. If I use spinach, I wilt it just because of the bulk. So I wilt it so that it goes down a little bit. If I put onions in, I saute them a little first. So you can cook some of your vegetables first. Cook your onions, saute your asparagus a little bit. Your spinach doesn't take long if you wilt it, just get the volume down. What else would you put in there? You could put in sausage, you can put in ham, and then just cover your fillings with your egg. And if you have egg mix left over, then you can use it in a little custard cup in a pan of water, and you'll have a nice egg custard.
You gave me permission.
I did give you permission, yeah. Yeah, have fun with it. They're really, and once you have that, I think once you have the egg and the milk ratio down, you're a long way to having a good quiche. Or you've gone a long way toward having a good quiche, I should say it that way. Oh, now we're back to that quiche recipe. So this has 198 ratings and it's got a 4.5 stars. So I think you're safe with this one. Now I made this recipe that I think you'll really like, and this is in my freezer right now. So I made it for dinner. I had plenty left over to make an additional casserole, and I will be able to pull this out also for my company. This is a garlic shrimp pasta bake. Very easy. You can use a whole grain pasta. This is using a penne pasta, which I prefer. I'm not sure that the recipe calls for a 10-ounce package of penne. And they like to, in these recipes, tell you to use the size of package. And the recipe doesn't necessarily follow that you want to use all that pasta. So I would say eye that up, add your pasta, and see where you are. Don't feel compelled to use the whole 10 ounces. You can freeze what's left if you want. I found that this was a little pasta heavy for my taste, but I made it work anyway. So the taste is wonderful. It's a pound of shrimp for this recipe that you peel and devein. And then your herbs are parsley and dill. So let's go down here and look at how you put this together. Doesn't take long at all. So you cook your penne until it's about al dente. Now, I made mine with rice pasta, and I ended up I was teaching a class. I had to leave my pasta and put my husband in charge, and the rice pasta got overdone. So don't do what I did. Don't overdo your pasta. Make your pasta al dente. And then while that's cooking, you can heat your butter and the vegetable oil in a big skillet on the stove, because you're going to be putting everything in that skillet eventually. Add the garlic, cook that for about 30 seconds, and then cook your shrimp. And add that and the parsley and the dill together. So you want your shrimp to be covered with the dill and with the parsley, and you cook that for 3 or 4 minutes until the shrimp is pink. And then add more butter to the skillet, and remove those shrimp. I'm sorry, move the shrimp to another plate, set them aside, and add the rest of the butter and any shrimp juices that are left. And then add the flour that it calls for. It just calls for, you're making a roux here, so it calls for 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. So you mix that in with the butter, make yourself a paste or a roux there. And once you have that paste, then you can add a 1/2 cup of chicken broth and a cup of milk. So we do that with the flour. We want to be able to thicken this sauce, but we don't want any lumps. And so that's why we mix the flour with the butter. And once we add the milk and the broth, we whisk that to combine it. Things are starting to get thick. And then you stir in the tomatoes, the lemon juice, and the salt and pepper, and let the whole thing simmer for a while. Then you can add a 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese and the Romano cheese. So it calls for 3/4 of a cup of grated Parmesan and a 1/2 cup of grated Romano, but you're only adding a part of the Parmesan. You're saving some of the Parmesan for on top. So you're adding a 1/2 cup of Parmesan and all of the Romano into the sauce. And adding a tablespoon of mozzarella. So this actually has 3 cheeses in it. It is so good. Then mix in your penne pasta. And I would say, this is where they say, mix in about 1/2 of the cooked pasta to start, and then add more if you have enough sauce. So then you put your shrimp in and the rest of the cheese and the mozzarella and parsley, and you bake it for about 8 to 10 minutes because everything's already hot. You just want it to start really bubbling and coming together with a brown top or a golden top. So that's that recipe, and it really doesn't take much time at all. And you can use your leftover penne, if you have it, to make a quick pasta salad with some Italian dressing and some vegetables that you have in the refrigerator. So what do you think about that?
Can you buy the shrimp already ready to go?
You can. You can buy, I think you can buy peeled raw shrimp. I wouldn't use cooked shrimp. I think they'd be overdone.
Okay, peeled what shrimp?
You might be able to find raw peeled shrimp, raw, uncooked.
Raw, okay.
Uncooked peeled shrimp. You might be able to find those, but I would advise against using cooked shrimp because you're wanting to get the juices from the shrimp as it's cooking. That flavors the sauce. And the shrimp that are already cooked will just become very tough because shrimp should only be cooked for a matter of a couple of minutes until they turn pink. That's why we take them out of this and just stir them in at the very end so they don't overcook. Okay. Other thoughts about this recipe? Anybody think they might try this one?
I would.
You would, Teresa?
Oh, yes.
I'd love to know what you think about it. Yeah, I think it's tasty, and I'm curious to know what everybody else thinks. This last thing, I think it's not quite last, but this is a salad. This is a fruit salad that is just so beautiful, so summery, so girly. This is a girly recipe, I think. And this is sparkling fruit salad with champagne mimosa dressing. Now,
Wow.
don't be put off with the champagne. You don't have to use anything alcoholic, but isn't it beautiful? And it uses all these berries that are coming into season. So let's skip down to the recipe. We've got where did that go? Jump to the recipe. Jump to the recipe. There it is. So it has a mango, a pineapple, some sliced strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, 3 kiwi, 3 tablespoons of fresh chopped mint, and then this dressing that has orange juice and champagne or sparkling wine, or you can use sparkling grape juice, and a couple of tablespoons of honey. And if you have an orange liqueur, you can mix that in as well. So you toss all those fruits together. Now, go with what you can get that's fresh. If you need to mix it up with some other things or eliminate some things, go there. I think your frozen fruits, with the exception of maybe blueberries, get pretty soft and mushy and really not ideal for a fresh fruit salad. So just change it up. There's lots of mangoes out there and pineapple right now, and strawberries will be in. Kiwi would be great. So toss what you have, and then in a medium bowl, you whisk together the orange juice, the champagne, the honey, and the orange liqueur if you're using that. And then you don't put this dressing on until right before you're going to serve, and then toss it with the dressing to coat it. I think it'll be very refreshing and very beautiful. And here's dessert, lemon bars. Have to have dessert, but I kept it on the light side, thinking about mothers wanting to keep their calories down a little bit. So has anybody made lemon bars before? Do you have a recipe for lemon bars that you like? They're a favorite of people who like lemon. Anybody make lemon bars? This is an easy one, and this is a pretty classic recipe. Very, they're served chilled, so they're nice and light as a dessert. So you're going to make a crust out of butter, flour, brown sugar, and some confectioner's sugar. You just, first of all, preheat your oven to 350 and then grease your pan, your 9 by 13 inch casserole dish, and then put parchment paper in there. The grease helps the parchment paper to stay attached to your baking dish instead of popping up and popping out. So leave a 2-inch overhang over the long sides of the dish so you can lift your lemon bars out. And then in your food processor, you're going to pulse the flour and both of these sugars and your salt until the dough comes together. And then just press it evenly into the bottoms and up about a 1/2 inch in the sides of the pan. And then bake it for about 25 minutes. And while it's baking, you can make the filling. So you whisk whole eggs and yolks. So 4 large eggs plus 2 egg yolks. You can save your yolks to make meringue. And we're doing a meringue class tomorrow, so you can come and learn about meringue. So whisk the eggs and the yolks, the sugar, and this flour, 1/3 of a cup of flour, and lemon zest and lemon juice all together. And that becomes your filling. So when your crust is finished, remove it from the oven, reduce your oven temperature to 300 and wait until it gets there. Then pour the filling that you just made over that warm crust and put it back in the oven and bake it until the filling is just set. That takes about 30 minutes or so. And then let them cool. Let those bars cool in the pan on a cooling rack, and then refrigerate until they are firm for about 2 hours, and then lift them out with the parchment paper. So don't try to rush that and take those out while they're warm. Then you can always take a little sieve or something to tap a little confectioner's sugar over the top of that. Very simple, easy. They would travel well, and they're very light.
Do you keep those in the refrigerator?
Yes, keep them in the refrigerator. Mm-hmm. And here's a little tribute to all of you mothers. This was by Mahatma Gandhi. He said, "It may be possible to gild pure gold, but who can make his mother more beautiful?" So you are, ladies, all very beautiful. And here's another one that I think is appropriate for a cooking class. A mother is a person who, seeing there are only 4 pieces of pie for 5 people, promptly announces she never did care for pie. And I bet you are all those kinds of moms. And lastly, a little poem. And I'll let you read that. Can you read that? Can you see that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So things that children may not say or may not think to say is in their hearts. Wow. How many of us feel like there's things we left unsaid with our mothers?
Mhm. Can you send us those poems?
I'd be happy to do that. Absolutely, I will.
And
Yeah.
how much extra champagne mimosa should I make to drink while I make the salad?
Well, I think the rest of the bottle would be appropriate. I think that would be great. Oh my goodness, what could be better on Mother's Day than a mimosa, right? It's just perfect. The food won't matter. Okay. So that brings us to the end, except that we still have something in the oven. And so we have a few moments here. Let me do my little wrap up here with get set up, and then we'll stop sharing the screen and I'll pull the French toast out of the oven and we'll take a look. I'll take a taste and I'll give you my objective thoughts about that. So tomorrow I have a Mexican fiesta day because it's Cinco de Mayo. So please come to Cinco de Mayo and we'll share some recipes. I know that I'm not sure where. So she's not here right now, but she was here earlier. Alberta has shared some additional recipes, which we'll include at some point. And yeah, just so if you want to have your own fiesta, whether it's on Cinco de Mayo or another day, we have recipes for that. And then also there's another guide who's doing a class on paper flowers. So you can learn how to make these paper flowers in a way that can be really decorative for a table if you want to set up for a fiesta. And I do quinoa classes as well. So that there's one coming up, I think next week. And I'm starting one on spotlight on asparagus, since that's a good spring vegetable. I'll be sending out the email after class. I'll send you those poems. I have to think about how to do that. I'll probably need to do that by website because I did a cut and paste on those. So I have to think about that. I'll get those to you as well as those recipes. And when you get those, you can get that email. You can give me some feedback. Take a look at the schedule another class. I'll send you some ideas. And don't forget to invite some friends. We'd love to have that. You can do that when you're registering for a class as well. So Help It Get Set Up is what's going to help you get registered for another class if you're having any issues, or if you want to suggest anything, or even hook us up with other organizations in your community. And now I'm going to stop my share. And come back to you. And leave this open right now for questions or thoughts or final comments before I pull the French toast out of the oven.
I felt that I was in your kitchen with you cooking. That was just great fun.
You like that? Oh,
I
thank
really did.
Good, Martha. Thank you. I'm glad that you said that. I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that you're on camera too with me. I feel like you're in my kitchen. And if you were here, I'd offer you a cup of coffee or tea right now. And a piece of lunch. Clean up. Anything else anyone wants to say? Okay. Sometimes we're quieter than others. So let's see what's going on in the oven.
Do you smell it cooking?
I do. It smells delicious. You know how cinnamon smells when you're baking? Okay. Whew. It's hot. Oh, it's bubbling. I don't know if you can see it, but the brown sugar is bubbling over there on the side. And I'm just going to take a fork in there and check it out. Oh, see, this is something that family will go, ooh, ah. Okay, I'm going to say that the uptick in the bread and the milk was a good idea. So I'll write that in the notes because it's not soggy. It's very hot.
Don't do that. Burn your mouth.
It's delicious. And then you can it's very light. It's got some crispiness to it. It's got a little bit of sweetness. There will be more as I dig into the syrupy part. But of course, you'll have maple syrup or your favorite syrup on the table for anybody who likes a little more sweet. And it would go great with a side of bacon. I just got some of the caramelized brown sugar. You're going to like this one. Thank you so much for coming today. And I will see you the next time. Come again.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb.
Thanks, Deb.
Take care.
You took a lot of time to do that. It was appreciated.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Happy Mother's Day.